Black janitor saved the child no one else noticed. Crowd was in tears. In a busy train station, where thousands rushed by in polished shoes and hurried footsteps, there was one man everyone overlooked. The janitor. Invisible, ignored, and often mocked for the uniform he wore and the color of his skin. But on one fateful afternoon, while crowds poured to the platforms, a small child wandered too close to danger. No one noticed. Not the commuters, not the security guards, not even the child's frantic mother. But the man everyone ignored did. What happened in the next few minutes would silence the crowd, shatter prejudices, and leave the entire station in tears. His name was David. For years he worked at the station, mopping floors, collecting trash, and wiping down benches while the endless tide of strangers brushed past him without so much as a glance. Children sometimes stared, curious, but their parents pulled him away quickly, whispering that talking to janitors wasn't polite. He knew the whispers weren't just snobbery. They cut deeper, slicing into prejudice he had faced since childhood because he was black and carried a job society dismissed as low. But David carried himself with quiet pride. His paycheck supported 2 children of his own. His mop and rag provided dignity that no insult could erase. He told himself each day, "What I do matters. It keeps people safe, clean, and cared for in ways they never notice." Even still, the sting of being unseen weighed on him. Security guards, younger and barely trained, ordered him around like a servant. Commuters dropped trash at his feet, as if daring him to pick it up. Occasionally, cruel laughter echoed when he emptied bins near groups of students who thought life was measured by status. Yet David endured. He loved people, even people who mocked him. He studied their faces, their lives rushing past, their stories hidden in briefcases and backpacks. He saw what few others did, the overlooked details. On one warm afternoon, when the station swelled with travelers returning from work, David noticed something the crowd didn't. A child no older than 6 slipped free from her mother's hand and wandered toward the edge of the platform. Trains roared in, noisy, fast, unforgiving. The crowd were focused on their phones, their schedules. No one saw, except David. David had always trained himself to notice the small things others overlooked. Spilt coffee, dropped wallets, loose wires. But this was different. His heart lurched as his eyes locked on the little girl, drifting dangerously close to the platform edge. She gazed with childish wonder at the glowing rails below, her tiny shoes edging forward, one shuffle at a time. The mother, trapped in a sea of passengers, hadn't realized her daughter's hand had slipped from her grip. She looked around frantically, eyes wide, but her little girl was already yards away, hidden by the rush of bodies. David's pulse accelerated. The overhead speakers crackled with the arrival of the next inbound train, its whistle already echoing down the tunnel. His mop clattered to ground as he weaved between the wall of strangers. He shouted, but the noise drowned him. Nobody looked. To them, he was just a janitor yelling. No urgency, no authority. Passengers were too engrossed in scrolling screens, bustling conversations, or their race against time to catch the next train. The girl's foot slipped on the yellow line of the platform, that thin strip designed to warn people where not to stand. She was seconds away from disaster. David's body surged forward, cutting through startled commuters, his heart pounding. Every ounce of muscle, every step, was a battle against the press of the crowd. He could hear it. The thunder of metal wheels, vibrations under his shoes as the train barreled closer. The girl leaned forward curiously, a dangerous sway. David lunged. In one breathtaking second, he swept the child into his arms, pulling her backward just as wind and screeching brakes thundered through the station. The train roared past, blasting dust and noise across the platform. The crowd gasped collectively. Silence followed. For a moment, all anyone could see was a janitor holding a terrified little girl, his chest heaving, his palms trembling. The mother screamed the girl's name and shoved her way forward, collapsing into sobs as David placed the child into her arms. But the silence wasn't only from shock, it was from shame. Nearly 100 people stood on that platform. None noticed the child in time. None but the man they treated as invisible. The station was frozen. The mother clutched her daughter, tears rolling down her cheeks, whispering thanks over and over. David stood back quietly, shaking his head, murmuring that he was just doing what anyone would do. But deep down he knew not everyone would have. Phone cameras rose, snapping pictures, recording shaky videos. Whispers rippled through the crowd. People recognized what had just happened. The janitor who had been mocked, dismissed, and laughed that had just saved a life none of them even saw was in danger. Some commuters looked at the ground, ashamed of how they had treated him minutes before. Others clapped timidly, then louder, until the entire platform erupted in applause. Not for the child being saved alone, but for the man they had ignored until now. Security guards rushed over, their expressions mixed between embarrassment and awe. They had brushed past David countless times like he was insignificant, and now they realized his vigilance had prevented what would have been a front-page tragedy. An announcement blared overhead about delays caused by an incident on the platform, but no announcement could capture the truth. A life had been saved by someone society tries to keep in the shadows. And then the tears flowed, not just the mothers, but strangers in the crowd who understood they had witnessed something profound. For David, it wasn't about the applause. It was about the child breathing alive, safe. His body shook not from pride, but from the terrifying thought of what could have happened had he looked away, had he decided it wasn't his problem, had he let himself believe the lie society whispered, that his role didn't matter. News outlets later picked up the story. Headlines read about the janitor hero, a man who kept the city's train station alive not only through cleanliness but through courage. Some tried to sensationalize it as if it was a fairy tale, but those who had been there knew the truth. It was much more than that. It wasn't just about one child and one quick rescue. It was about perception, prejudice, and humanity. For years, David had been brushed aside because of his job and the color of his skin, judged as less competent, less important, and less human. But in one powerful moment, he reminded everyone watching that greatness is not defined by wealth or titles, but by action, compassion, and courage. The station implemented new child safety protocols. Management issued a statement of gratitude. Yet the true change was subtler. People began seeing David differently. No longer invisible, no longer just a janitor, but a man who embodied the very best of humanity. David never asked for recognition. He still arrived each morning with his mop and supplies, still wiped the benches and swept the tiles. But to those who watched, every stroke of his mop echoed a louder truth. Sometimes the ones we overlook are the ones who save us. And maybe that's a lesson all of us need. How many times do we walk past invisible people of this world without acknowledgement? How many faces are ignored because of uniforms or skin color, until a moment of crisis forces us to finally see them? Respect shouldn't require heroism. Dignity shouldn't depend on headlines. Humanity shouldn't be selective. So the next time you cross paths with someone unseen, will you pause, truly pause, to recognize their worth? Or will you wait, like that crowd, until it's too late?